Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Gabe with Indigo Software, genuine Microsoft software for less. In today's video, we're taking you guys through a full 90-question practice exam for CompTIA Security Plus. We already released a practice test in the past, and this is practice test version 2. We hope that by watching this video, you'll be even more prepared when the time comes to take your Security Plus exam. Before we get started with today's video, if you're interested in purchasing Microsoft Office, Windows 10, Windows 11, remote desktop licenses, Windows Server, or a wide variety of other Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll have those links down below. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, guys, so welcome into the CompTIA Security Plus test version 2. We're going to go ahead and get right into question number 1. Which of the following statements best explains the importance of a legal hold in an incident response? The correct answer here is going to be B, which is a legal hold is the process of securing and preserving evidence related to a security incident. Let's check that to make sure. Okay. And for the explanation, we'll go into a little bit of depth here. A legal hold is the process of securing and preserving evidence related to a security incident for potential use in legal proceedings. When a security incident occurs, it is essential to preserve all relevant data and evidence to support any potential investigation, legal actions, or regulatory requirements. I'll leave up the rest if you guys want to read further for 5 to 10 seconds. Question 2. Lexicon, an AI company, seeks to implement a security measure to systematically identify, evaluate, and prioritize potential risks to their system and networks. Which of the following is an example of a managerial security control that would help to achieve this? Now, the answer to this question is sort of in the question. So if we read the line here, systematically identify, evaluate, and prioritize potential risks. Well, this is simply asking us about risk assessments. So the answer is C. For the explanation here, periodic evaluations like risk assessments are a managerial security control that involves regularly evaluating the threats to systems and networks. This can help the company identify potential threats and take steps to mitigate them. Security guards are considered operational controls, not managerial controls. Intrusion detection system is a technical security control that monitors network traffic for signs of security threats. And firewall is a technical security control that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on predetermined security rules. Kelly Innovations LLC wants to implement a network appliance that focuses on filtering traffic based on source and destination IP addresses and port numbers. Which layer of the OSI model is this appliance primarily operating at? The correct answer is C, layer 4. Layer 4, or the transport layer, deals with protocols like TCP and UDP and is concerned with port numbers and connection-oriented communication. Network appliances operating at this layer filter and manage traffic based on source and destination IP addresses, as well as port numbers. Layer 2, the data link layer, deals with frames and MAC addresses. Switches typically operate at this layer. Layer 5, the session layer, establishes, maintains, and terminates connections between applications on different devices. It doesn't handle filtering based on IP addresses and port numbers. Layer 3, the network layer, is primarily focused on routing data and IP addressing. Devices at this layer, like routers, aren't primarily concerned with port numbers. Question 4. A cloud service provider recently underwent an audit to confirm their compliance with international data security standards. The final report provided by the auditors served as an attestant of the provider's security measures. What does this attestation signify to the cloud service provider's clients? The correct answer is going to be D. It assures that the provider's security controls comply with established standards. Attestation provides clients with a level of assurance that the provider's security controls have been independently assessed and found to comply with specific security standards. The effectiveness of marketing strategies is outside the scope of security attestation. Attestation does not guarantee that security controls are infallible. It only verifies that they are implemented as per certain standards. Attestation focuses on the verification of security measures, not on evaluating cost effectiveness. Jimmy, a chief technology officer, is evaluating different architecture models. His biggest concern is the ease of deployment. Which of the following factors would be most critical to consider from a security standpoint? The correct answer is C, integration with existing security protocols. When deploying a new architectural model, ensuring it integrates seamlessly with the organization's existing security protocols and measures is paramount. If not, it can lead to security gaps and vulnerabilities. TCO provides an insight into the overall costs associated with an architectural model. However, while costs can influence the decision, it does not specifically address security implications tied to deployment ease. While scalability is essential for future growth, it doesn't directly impact the initial ease of deployment considerations concerning security. Although the reputation of a vendor can give insights about the reliability and quality of their products, it does not directly correlate with the ease of deployment considerations from a security perspective. Next question, which of the following best describes the primary purpose of a honeypot in a network environment? The correct answer is to detect and divert potential attackers. The primary purpose of a honeypot in a network environment is to detect and divert potential attackers by attracting them to a decoy system. This setup allows security teams to observe unauthorized activity and gather information without risking actual network resources. Unlike blocking unauthorized access, which actively prevents entry, a honeypot passively lures attackers. It does not prevent malware from executing, as it is meant for monitoring rather than directly stopping threats. Similarly, it does not serve to recover lost data after an attack, focusing instead on early detection and diversion. Hani, a security analyst, is investigating a malware incident and discovers that the malware had been placed on the computers weeks ago. At midnight, it triggered a virus that spread across 4 servers and throughout the organization. The CEO found a message from a former employee stating that he had left a surprise for the company. Which type of malware is most likely responsible for this incident? Correct answer is D, logic bomb. A logic bomb is a type of malware that executes a malicious action when a specific condition or trigger is met, such as date, time, or event. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts the data or files on a system and demands a ransom for their decryption or restoration. A Trojan is a type of malware that disguises itself as a legitimate or benign program but prefers malicious actions when executed. A worm is a type of malware that self-replicates and spreads to other systems or networks without user interaction. What is the primary difference between sanitization and destruction in the disposal process? The correct answer is B. Sanitization involves erasing data so it cannot be recovered. Destruction is total physical demolition of an asset. Sanitization involves the process of permanently erasing or de-identifying data on a device so it cannot be recovered, while destruction is about physically demolishing the asset, ensuring no data can be extracted from it. Sanitization and destruction involve methods of removing or totally destroying data or assets, rather than internal asset redistribution in an organization. Sanitization does not refer to physically damaging the asset. Instead, it has to do with removing or de-identifying the data so that it cannot be recovered. Destruction involves physical destruction of the asset itself. Which of the following statements best explains the importance of employee retention in securing an organization? The correct answer is B. Employee retention helps to maintain institutional knowledge and expertise in managing security automation. Employee retention enables the organization to retain experienced staff with valuable institutional knowledge, enhancing the management of security automation and orchestration. This accumulated expertise supports smoother operations and can improve response times in handling incidents. However, employee retention does not impact the prevention of social engineering attacks and is not directly related to the need for automation. The benefits of automation and orchestration remain essential regardless of retention rates. Neville, a security engineer, suggests his company create a fake document that appears to contain sensitive information in order to attack the trackers. Which of the following is Neville suggesting be created? Now, this is similar to the answer that we had a few questions ago. Rather than a honeypot, this is simply referred to as a honey file. A honey file is a fake file or set of files designed to appear valuable or sensitive in order to attract attackers. A honey token is a fake piece of data, such as a username or password, designed to appear valuable or sensitive in order to attract attackers. A honey net is a network designed to simulate real network and attract attackers. And a honeypot, like we talked about earlier, is a mechanism that uses a manufactured attack target to lure cyber criminals away from legitimate targets. At a high security research facility, employees have been noticing some oddities. Every morning for a week, when the first employee arrives, they find the main entrance door slightly ajar, though nothing inside seems to be stolen or disturbed. The facility uses a high-tech access card system for entry, and logs show different authorized personnel supposedly accessing the building multiple times during the night. However, those employees claim they were at home during those hours. What type of malicious activity is most likely responsible for these oddities? And the most likely culprit here, based on our other options, it's not going to be some kind of computer-related thing. It's going to be RFID cloning. I'm getting that answer based on the high-tech access card systems. If the employees are home, then that means there could be duplicates of these. Radio frequency identification cloning involves copying data from one RFID tag and then using a duplicate or clone to gain unauthorized access. The mysterious nighttime entries using legitimate employee credentials suggest this. This is a software-based threat and not relevant to the physical security scenario described. Environmental attacks focus on exploiting physical environmental factors such as temperature, humidity, etc. There's no evidence pointing to this based on the scenario. Brute force attacks typically involve trying many different combinations to gain unauthorized entry. This would likely not result in the logs showing authorized employees accessing the facility. A company wants to test a new software application that was downloaded from an unknown source. The company does not want to risk infecting its network or compromising its data with malware or other threats. Which of the following techniques would be most suitable for this scenario? The correct answer will be C, sandboxing. Sandboxing is a technique that isolates a software application from the rest of the system so that it can be run and tested in a safe and controlled environment. Sandboxing prevents the application from accessing or affecting other programs or data on the system and limits resources and permissions it can use. If the application contains malware or other threats, they will be contained within the sandbox and it will not harm the system. A firewall is a device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing network traffic based on rules. Firewall protects from malicious network connections, but not malware or other threats running on the system. Antivirus is a technique that detects and removes malware or other threats from the system using signatures, heuristics, and behavioral analysis. Antivirus protects from known or suspected malware or other threats, but it may not be able to detect a new or unknown threat. Encryption is a technique that transforms data into an unreadable format using a secret key so that only authorized parties can access or modify it. Encryption protects data from unauthorized access or tampering, but it does not prevent malware or other threats from running on the system. DataCore, a data processing company, has gathered its security team for a meeting where the chief operations officer presents a scenario involving a newly discovered zero-day vulnerability, to which their systems are particularly vulnerable. The security team discusses various ways to address the issue, with two major competing approaches emerging. Which type of exercise are they most likely performing? And the correct answer is B. Tabletop exercises begin with a scenario where participants discuss how they would respond. These are discussion-based and don't require technology. In this case, the team is discussing solutions to a scenario, making it a tabletop exercise. Simulations are team-based, with one team acting as intruders and the other responding to a threat. Moderators enforce the rules, and these exercises are more extensive than tabletop. A functional exercise involves real-time simulations where teams actively use tools, processes, and communication, making it more hands-on compared to tabletop exercises. Lastly, a live drill involves real systems and environments in real time to simulate events like a cyber attack, requiring immediate hands-on responses. Since the DataCore team is only discussing the scenario, this is not a live drill, simulation, or functional exercise, but a tabletop exercise. At Dion Training, the risk management team has completed a comprehensive risk assessment and identified potential risks across various departments. To ensure proactive risk management and response, they want to establish a system for continuously monitoring and tracking these identified risks. Which element of the risk management process should the risk management team implement to monitor and track the identified risks over time? The correct answer is risk register. The risk register is a comprehensive record that lists all identified risks, their potential impacts, assigned risk owners, and current risk status. It serves as a central repository for tracking and monitoring risks over time. Business impact analysis assesses the potential consequences of specific risks on critical business functions, helping prioritize risk response efforts. Risk reporting involves the regular communication and documentation of identified risks, their potential impact, and risk management strategies to relevant stakeholders. Risk assessment is the initial step in the risk management process, involving the identification, analysis, and evaluation of potential risks. Which of the following motivations is most likely to drive a nation-state threat actor to launch an attack? And the correct answer here is espionage. Espionage is the act of obtaining secret or confidential information without the permission of the holder of the information. A nation-state threat actor may conduct espionage to gain strategic advantage, intelligence, or insight into their adversaries or competitors. Service disruption is the act of interrupting or degrading the availability or performance of a system or network. A nation-state threat actor may conduct service disruption as part of other activities, but it is rarely their primary motivation for attacking. Nation-state threat actors usually have extensive funding from their government or military organization that funds them, so they wouldn't have financial gain as their primary motivation for attacking. Political beliefs may be a part of motivation for a nation-state actor, but they are much more likely to be motivated by a desire for data or competitive advantage. An attacker sets up a rogue access point mimicking a legitimate one at a local cafe. Unsuspecting customers connect to this access point, enabling the attacker to intercept their data. Which of the following best describes this threat vector? And this is basically in the name. We are using a wireless network here, so that's going to be our answer. Attackers exploit vulnerabilities in remote access or wireless networks. By setting up rogue access points, spoofing legitimate resources, or cracking security protocols, they can intercept or gain unauthorized access. Phishing involves attackers trying to trick individuals into providing sensitive data by posing as a trusted entity, usually through emails or deceptive websites. The default credential threat vector involves the intruder seizing the command of a network device or application due to it remaining set with its factory default password. Such default login credentials are often found in the product's installation guide or can easily be found. Supply chain attacks involve compromising one part of an organization's supply chain to later attack the main organization. It doesn't directly relate to wireless networks. A drone manufacturer employs an RTOS to ensure timely task executions. While optimizing for real-time performance, which of the following security concerns might arise? And the correct answer is inadequate buffer overflow protections. RTOSs provide performance, sometimes at the expense of security features like buffer overflow protections, potentially leaving the system susceptible to certain attacks. While cloud access can pose risks, it's not an inherent security implication of using an RTOS. RTOSs are designed for efficiency and generally don't involve the overheads from virtualization layers. RTOSs aren't primarily concerned with supporting legacy protocols, and this isn't a direct security risk associated with them. Which of the following architecture models involves using a single point of control or authority to manage a system or service? And that is what we would refer to as centralized. Centralized is an architecture model that involves using a single point of control or authority to manage a system or service. Centralized systems or services can have advantages such as simplicity, consistency, and security, but also disadvantages such as single point of failure, scalability issues, and a lack of autonomy. A responsibility matrix is a document that defines the roles and responsibilities of different parties involved in a cloud service agreement, such as the cloud service provider, the cloud customer, and the cloud user. It clarifies who is accountable for what aspects of security, compliance, and operations in a cloud environment. It isn't an architectural model. On-premises is an architectural model that involves hosting and managing infrastructure on the organization's own premises. It can be centralized or decentralized. Decentralized is an architecture model that involves using multiple distributed points of control or authority to manage a system or service. Decentralized systems or services have advantages such as resilience, scalability, and autonomy, but also disadvantages such as complexity, inconsistency, and security challenges. You are an IT security manager for an enterprise that deals with sensitive customer information and intellectual property. The organization is concerned about data loss through email and removable storage devices. As a security manager, you recommend implementing a data loss prevention solution to enhance security. Which of the following configurations would be the most effective way to implement data loss prevention for the given scenario? The correct answer is C. Configuring the DLP solution to scan all outbound emails and files, leaving the organization for sensitive information. Configuring DLP to scan outbound emails and files helps identify and prevent data loss, reducing the risk of breaches while supporting legitimate business needs. Blocking all email attachments and USB devices could limit data leakage, but may disrupt necessary operations. The core value of DLP lies in preventing data loss in real time, not just monitoring. While internal transfer monitoring can be beneficial, the priority here is preventing sensitive data from leaving via email or removable storage. Which of the following threat vectors primarily involves malicious software or data being transferred or executed from documents, executables, or other common file types? And this one's pretty simple and self-explanatory. The answer is file-based. File-based threats arise when malicious content is embedded or attached in standard files, which, when opened or executed, compromises the security of the system. While emails can contain malicious attachments, the email itself is a message-based threat. Voice call is a method often used in phishing attacks, where the attackers may pose as legitimate entities over the phone to deceive users into providing sensitive information or taking specific actions, but this doesn't involve file transfers. And a business email compromise is an advanced phishing attack where an attacker impersonates a high-ranking official or department within a company, usually targeting those who have the ability to conduct financial transactions. A former technician of Dion Innovations, who was recently laid off, launches a series of distributed denial of service attacks against the company's main website. Many believe the attacks are a direct response to the technician's termination. What is the likely motivation behind these attacks? And the correct answer is revenge. Revenge is a powerful motivator where the individual, driven by feelings of anger, resentment, or betrayal, aims to retaliate against those they perceive as responsible for their grievances. In the context of cybersecurity, this could manifest in various ways, such as DDoS attacks, data tampering, or other malicious activities. With the intent of causing harm to the targeted entity, espionage is typically driven by the need to gather secret or sensitive data for political, military, or other advantages. It often involves stealthy techniques to infiltrate a system, gather intelligence, and exfiltrate the data without detection. Blackmail is a form of extortion where an attacker threatens to release sensitive or damaging information unless their demands, often financial, are met. This involves leveraging stolen or accessed data as a means to coerce the victim into compliance, making it difficult from acts purely driven by revenge. Motivated by the allure of monetary benefits, individuals or groups engaging in activities for financial gain often aim to steal, manipulate, or ransom data or services, and this can involve ransomware attacks, data breaches with the intent to sell the data, or other financially motivated cybercrimes. Which of the following terms refers to the delivery of computing services over the internet, such as servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence? And the correct answer here is cloud. Cloud is an architecture model that involves delivering computer services over the internet, such as servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence. Cloud can offer benefits such as scalability, flexibility, and cost effectiveness, but it also introduces challenges such as security, privacy, and governance. IoT stands for Internet of Things, which is a network of physical devices that can communicate and exchange data over the internet. It does not refer to the delivery of computing services over the internet. On-premises is an architecture model that involves hosting and managing infrastructure on the organization's own premises. It does not refer to the delivery of computing services over the internet. And virtualization is a technique that involves creating virtual versions of physical resources such as servers, storage, or networks. It does not refer to the delivery of computing services over the internet. A business seeks to balance risk and reward, making careful investments but avoiding both overly risky ventures and overly cautious decisions. What type of risk appetite does this business demonstrate? This one is just like it sounds. This is a neutral risk appetite. The business demonstrates a neutral risk appetite as it aims for a balanced approach, weighing risk and reward without extreme caution or high risk tolerance. Expansionary appetite would involve seeking an aggressive growth despite risks, while conservative appetite would lean toward minimal risk. Risk-adverse approaches are closely aligned with conservative stances, emphasizing avoiding of risk more than a neutral perspective would. Sasha, a network administrator for Kelly's Technical Innovations, has just recently installed a NGFW on her company's network to replace the previous traditional stateful firewall they were using. This change was made to keep up with shortcomings that were with the previous firewall. Which of the following improvements does this NGFW provide that were not available previously? And here it wants us to choose 3. So the first is going to be that it can be integrated with various other security products. And the second here is application awareness that can distinguish between different types of traffic. And then lastly, we have the ability to conduct deep packet inspection and use signature-based intrusion detection. A next-generation firewall, NGFW, has several improvements over the company's previous stateful firewall, such as application awareness, that can distinguish between different types of traffic, can conduct deep packet inspection and use signature-based intrusion detection, and has the ability to be integrated with various other security protocols. Tracking of connections and requests, allowing the return traffic for outbound requests, and improving awareness of connection states on layer 4 were already features of the stateful firewall that was replaced. The addition of multiple functions, including firewall, intrusion protection, antivirus, and more, is advancing into the area of unified threat management firewall, rather than a basic NGFW. Increased focus on HTTP traffic helping to prevent common web application attacks, like cross-site scripting and SQL injections, would be a description of a web application firewall, WAF, not an NFGW. What part of a BPA for mission essential functions provides a detailed step-by-step description of the procedural tasks performed? And this one is going to be B, process flow. In business process analysis, process flow details each operational step, describing how the mission essential function is systematically executed. While inputs are crucial for starting the process, they do not constitute the sequential operational guide that is the process flow. Hardware identifies the physical infrastructure used in the process, not the step-by-step procedural narrative. And outputs relate to the final products or data produced by the function, which is the result of the process flow, not the description of the steps themselves. Your organization is implementing a new identity and access management (IAM) system to enhance security and streamline user management processes. During the planning phase, you discover that there are multiple existing systems in use that require integration with the new IAM system. Ensuring interoperability between these systems is crucial. What is the best approach to achieve interoperability in this scenario? The correct answer is B, implementing SSO to allow users to access multiple systems using a single set of credentials. Secure sign-on allows users to log in once and gain access to multiple systems that are integrated with the IAM system. This enhances the user experience, reduces the need for multiple credentials, and ensures a unified and secure authentication process. While replacing all existing systems may seem like a straightforward solution, it is often costly, time-consuming, and may disrupt business operations. Additionally, compatibility issues might still arise with the new systems. Assigning different user roles in each system does not address the interoperability requirement. It only focuses on permissions and access rights within individual systems, but does not enable seamless access and management across the various systems. Managing separate user accounts for each system can lead to inefficiencies, increased administration overhead, and potential discrepancies in user access across different systems. What key principle underpins the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation concerning personal data collection and processing? And you may or may not be familiar with this as a consumer. The correct answer is informed consent. GDPR mandates that personal data can only be collected and processed with the individual's informed consent, which means the purpose for data collection must clearly be communicated in plain language. Continuous monitoring is crucial for cybersecurity, but is not the primary tenet of GDPR's approach to personal data. While GDPR does address the retention of personal data, its primary focus is on ensuring data subjects give informed consent for data collection and processing. While encryption is essential for safeguarding data, GDPR's core principle revolves around the individual's right to understand and consent to how their data is used. Kelly Innovations LLC is keen on adopting technology to ensure the integrity and transparency of its financial transactions. They are looking for a solution where each transaction record is secured using cryptography, and the hash value of one record is used in the hash calculation of the next. Which of the following technologies would be most suitable for this requirement? And the answer here is blockchain. Blockchain employs an expanding list of transactional records, each referred to as a block, and each block validates the hash of the previous one. This process ensures that historical transactions remain untampered with. This form of encryption uses a single key to both encrypt and decrypt information, but it does not inherently create a linked chain of records as described. While PKI is a framework of encryption and cybersecurity that protects communications between the server and the client, it doesn't work with transactional records like blockchain does. Digital watermarking embeds information in the digital content, but doesn't deal with securing transaction records in the manner described. When sending an encrypted message to Dion Training, a client would use which of the following to ensure only Dion Training can decrypt and read the message? Correct answer is D, a public key. The client will use the company's public key to encrypt the message. Only Dion Training with the corresponding private key can decrypt and read the message, ensuring confidentiality and demonstrating the importance of public key cryptography. Key escrow refers to the storage of cryptographic keys, ensuring they can be accessed under specific conditions, but it's not directly used to encrypt or decrypt messages. A private key is kept secret by its holder and is used to decrypt messages that are encrypted with its corresponding public key. It's not used by external entities to encrypt messages to the key holder. A wildcard certificate secures multiple subdomains under a main domain, but doesn't directly involve message or encryption or decryption. A severe storm disrupts power at a company's main data center, leaving essential systems offline. To maintain operations, the IT team initiates procedures to bring up backup systems at an alternate location and restore critical data. Which aspect of the organization's disaster recovery policy is being implemented in this scenario? This one's pretty self-explanatory, I would say. The correct answer is recovery and restoration processes. This scenario illustrates the recovery and restoration processes within the organization's disaster recovery policy. When the severe storm disrupts power, the IT team's actions to activate backup systems at an alternate location and restore critical data are part of the recovery plan. These steps are essential for minimizing downtime and ensuring that critical operations can continue after an incident. Unlike risk assessment or data redundancy testing, recovery and restoration directly focus on restoring services and access following a disruption. Okay, question 31. Chromasoft, a game company, wants to reduce the public-facing attack surface for their company. They hope to achieve this by using a device that can handle and relay requests for servers. Which type of application appliance would be most appropriate for this purpose? The correct answer would be D, a proxy server. A proxy server stands between the user's computer and internet, intercepting requests and potentially reducing the public-facing attack surface by masking the internal server. Meeting the scenario requirements. A jump server is a server used as a bridge to connect to other servers or networks in separate security zones, but not specifically for relaying requests for another server to reduce attack surfaces. An intrusion detection system monitors network traffic for malicious activities. It alerts to the potential activity but does not prevent it from passing through the network. In this way, it provides a layer of protection without slowing down network performance. It will provide you with improved security but won't reduce the attack surface. A load balancer distributes or network or application traffic across many servers. This optimizes the use of resources, maximizes throughput, and reduces latency. At Jamario Tech, employees often complain about having to remember multiple strong passwords for different platforms, leading some to resort to insecure practices like writing them on sticky notes. The cybersecurity team wants to offer a solution to help employees securely manage and store their numerous credentials. Which of the following would be most effective solution for this problem? And this would be to introduce a company-wide password manager. A password manager securely stores and autofills credentials, reducing the burden on employees to remember multiple strong passwords. Advising employees to regularly change passwords increases security, but does not alleviate the primary issue for password recall. Encouraging their employees to write down their passwords is not recommended since they can be potentially found if not secured properly. And encouraging employees to use similar passwords for different platforms can lead to security vulnerabilities due to password reuse. Which of the following methods best ensures the security of data at rest? The correct answer is D, encryption and ACLs. Data at rest, such as that found in databases, archived media, or configuration files, can be vulnerable to unauthorized access. To protect this data, organizations commonly employ encryption methods. This can range from whole disk encryption to database or individual file/folder encryption. Additionally, by setting up access control lists, organizations can ensure that only authorized individuals can access or modify the stored data. While passwords provide a level of security, they are not comprehensive methods for protecting data at rest, especially when compared to encryption and ACLs. Storing data remotely might offer some physical security benefits, but it doesn't address the core concerns of unauthorized access or tampering. While regular backups are essential for data recovery, they do not inherently provide protection against unauthorized access or modification. Members of the risk management team at Eclipse, an awning manufacturer, are discussing the organization's approach to risk management. They are considering the level of risk they are willing to accept to achieve the aggregation set of goals the CEO has created. What is the term for what they are considering? Now, we went over this briefly earlier. The correct answer is C, risk appetite. Risk appetite refers to an organization's willingness to take on risk in pursuit of its objectives. It reflects the organization's approach to risk and how much risk it's willing to undertake to achieve certain goals. Risk acceptance means that an organization understands the level of risk that is involved in an activity and is willing to accept the outcomes of taking that risk. The risk is either accepted or not. There aren't levels of risk acceptance. In this case, they are not making a decision about the level of risk for a specific activity. Risk tolerance is the extent to which an organization is comfortable with the level of risk it is willing to take. It represents the organization's ability to withstand potential losses or disruptions. Risk deterrence involves taking measures to reduce or mitigate the impact of an event. In this case, they aren't evaluating the impact or taking measures to reduce the likelihood of a specific effect. Which of the following statements best explains the concept of log aggregation? The correct answer is C. Log aggregation is essential for collecting, normalizing, and centralizing log data from various sources such as network devices, servers, and applications. This centralized approach enables comprehensive analysis and detection of security incidents, providing valuable insights into potential security threats and breaches. While log aggregation makes it easier for analysts to view the data, aggregation doesn't involve analysis, only collection and centralization. Logging is the collection of data from a scan, making it available to security analysts. Log aggregation is the collection of log data from many sources and normalizing it so that it can be more easily analyzed. Log aggregation doesn't involve the actual monitoring of network traffic. Which of the following is the best type of backup that allows for rapid redeployment of an operating system without requiring reinstallation of third-party software, patches, and configurations? The correct answer is A, image backup. An image backup duplicates an OS installation either from a physical hard disk or a virtual machine's hard disk. It offers a quick means to redeploy the system without reinstalling the software and settings. File-level backup involves copying individual files and directories. Incremental backup saves only the changes made since the last backup, not the entire system configuration or OS installation. And differential backup saves all changes made since the last full backup, but it doesn't create a complete system image like the image backup. Which of the following best explains the importance of package monitoring in the context of vulnerability management? The correct answer is B. It helps identify and address vulnerabilities in software packages. Package monitoring involves keeping track of software package versions and security patches, which helps identify potential vulnerabilities and ensures that appropriate actions are taken to mitigate risks. By promptly addressing vulnerabilities, organizations can reduce the risk of potential exploits and maintain a more secure environment. While updating software packages is essential for performance and functionality, package monitoring in the context of vulnerability management is not focused on general updates. The purpose of package monitoring is to keep track of software package versions and security patches, not tracking software package dependencies. Tracking the physical location and status of hardware packages is not the intended purpose of package monitoring. Which of the following hardware vulnerabilities involves the ability to modify the software that controls the functionality of a device? And the correct answer is B, firmware vulnerability. A firmware vulnerability is an issue that involves the ability to modify or replace the software that controls the functionality of a hardware device. It can allow an attacker to alter the behavior, performance, or security of the device or install malware, backdoors, or spyware on it. Sideloading is a mobile device vulnerability that involves installing applications from sources other than the official App Store, such as third-party websites, USB drives, or email attachments. It can expose the device to malware, spyware, or unauthorized access. End-of-life attack is a hardware vulnerability that involves exploiting hardware devices that are no longer supported or updated by the manufacturer. It can allow an attacker to compromise the security or functionality of the device, or use it as a gateway to access other systems or networks. A legacy vulnerability is an issue with hardware that involves exploiting devices that are outdated or obsolete but still in use. It can allow an attacker to compromise the security or functionality of the device, or use it as a gateway to access other systems or networks. What kind of data typically requires processing by machines and specialized software? And we would call that non-human readable. So the answer is A. Non-human readable data typically refers to information that requires machine or specialized software to interpret. Being critical, data might have significant importance to the running of a business or organization, but it does not determine whether it's readable by humans. Geographic restrictions apply limitations based on data's location. This describes a security method, not the nature of data readability. Segmentation is a method of dividing a network into manageable parts. It's not a type of data. A company wants to implement a more flexible access control system that can adjust to changing user behavior. Which of the following technologies can help the company achieve this goal? The correct answer is A, adaptive identity. Adaptive identity allows for more flexible and dynamic access control by using contextual data to make dynamic access control decisions. For example, the system might grant access to a sensitive resource based on the user's location or the time of day. Policy-driven access control allows for more flexible and dynamic access control by using predefined policies to make access control decisions, but it does not necessarily adapt to changing user behavior and access patterns. MAC, or Mandatory Access Control, is an access control system that is very rigid. Access is granted through a system of rules and categorization of data. It does not provide more flexible and dynamic access control. Security zones are used to segment a network into smaller, more manageable areas, but they do not necessarily provide more flexible and dynamic access control. At Dion Defenders, the risk management team has completed the risk assessment process and identified various risks to the company's information systems. They are now preparing to communicate the risk-related information to relevant stakeholders and management for informed decision-making. What part of the risk assessment process are they undertaking? And this is referred to as risk reporting. Risk reporting is the element of the risk management process that involves communicating risk-related information, including risk assessment results, to relevant stakeholders and management. Risk analysis involves analyzing risks in terms of their potential financial impact and other factors. This is done before reporting to the stakeholders. Risk assessment involves evaluating the identified risks to determine their potential impact and likelihood of occurrence. This is done before reporting, and risk identification involves identifying potential risks within an organization's environment. This is also done before reporting to the stakeholders. Carlos, a new security consultant at Dion Training Solutions, is tasked with identifying potential security vulnerabilities in the company's data center. He requests the latest server architecture diagram, but receives one that's over a year old. Why is using this diagram potentially problematic for Carlos's task? The correct answer is C. It might not reflect the current architecture, leading to overlooked vulnerabilities. An outdated diagram wouldn't include recent changes, potentially missing out on identifying some vulnerabilities. The diagram's main goal is to depict the current structure, not necessarily future plans. The amount of detail is unrelated to the diagram's timeliness. Architecture diagrams focus on the system's architecture, not employee access. Dion Training is considering a collaboration with a new IT service vendor. To ensure compliance and adherence to industry standards, Dion Training wishes to see verifiable evaluations of the vendor's security controls and practices. Which of the following would provide Dion Training with insights into the vendor's own internal evaluations of their security measures? And we could determine this with evidence of internal audits. Evidence of internal audits showcases a vendor's proactive approach to maintaining and enhancing their security measures. Such audits are conducted internally and reflect a rigorous self-assessment of security practices, vulnerabilities, and control mechanisms. By reviewing these, a company can gain insights into the vendor's commitment to security, how they address weaknesses, and their overall cybersecurity health. This evidence can be instrumental in gauging the reliability of a vendor's internal security framework. While customer testimonials may provide some feedback on the vendor's performance, they don't offer insights into the vendor's internal evaluations of their security measures. External penetration test reports show the results of external entities testing the vendor's defenses, not the vendor's own evaluations. You're making an appointment to get your hair cut. When you enter your personal data into the website for Dye My Darling, the data is placed to a database and paired with a smaller set of symbols that will represent your data. To access your personal data, your stylist's computer will access the database. If an attacker gains access to the computer, they will see only the set of symbols, not your personal data. What method of concealment is Dye My Darling using? And we would refer to this as tokenization. Tokenization is the process of substituting a sensitive data element with a non-sensitive equivalent, referred to as a token. The token and the data it substitutes are stored in a secure database. If the original data is needed, it can be accessed using the token and querying the database. The token will be a different size and have a different structure than the original data, so the token can't be used to decipher the original data. Steganography is the practice of concealing a file, message, or video within another file, message, image, or video. It doesn't use database data. Masking is a method used to de-identify some or all characters in a sequence, but not changing the total number of characters that a field should contain. The masked version will be structurally the same, but the data will be hidden. Changing the letters or numbers entered into a password field with dots is an example of data masking. Data that is masked will have the same number of characters as the original data, not a smaller set. Encryption is the process of converting information or data into a code to prevent unauthorized access. It often uses an algorithm to replace the original data with the other data. If a person figures out or acquires the algorithm, the data can be decrypted. Encryption data is not stored in a database. Hakeem is a compliance officer at HLM Media. He is creating a classification system for HLM's data where there is some data that laws require be handled in particular ways. What label should he give the data that is subject to strict compliance standards? And the simple label that we need to apply here is regulated. Regulated data implies that it's a category of data that adheres to specific compliance standards due to its sensitive nature. Confidential and secret data might require high standards for handling, but it does not specifically encompass data that adheres to regulatory compliance standards. Data at rest is a state of data, typically stored data. It doesn't designate whether the data adheres to specific compliance standards. Sterling, an animal rights activist, infiltrates the network of a company that sells fur coats, blocking customers from accessing the website. His goal is to prevent customers from buying fur coats. What type of act does this example best represent? This one is called service disruption. A service disruption refers to the act of impairing or interrupting the availability or functionality of a system or network. Service disruption can be done for protest, sabotage, extortion, or diversion purposes. In this example, the hacktivist is preventing the system from functioning. Espionage, again, refers to the act of spying on another company's entities or secrets. The hacktivist in the example doesn't attempt to gain information or use it. Creating disorder/chaos refers to the act of causing disorder or confusion in a system network, and this is often done for amusement, experimentation, or nihilism. The hacktivist's action may disrupt the company's business, but the main motivation is to prevent the company from providing a service. Data exfiltration refers to the act of stealing sensitive or confidential data from a system or network. Data exfiltration can be done for financial gain, espionage, or blackmail, or other purposes. In the example, the hacktivist doesn't take information. Manar is reviewing logs and finds that many logon attempts were made using common words followed by numbers or symbols. Each password is attempted on the 20 computers in the accounting department. He suspects that these passwords were generated by an automated tool. Which of the following password attacks is best illustrated by this finding? The correct answer is spraying. A spraying attack is a type of password attack that involves trying common passwords against multiple accounts, hoping to find a match. A birthday attack is a type of cryptographic attack that involves finding two different inputs that produce the same output for a hashing algorithm. A brute force attack is a type of password attack that involves trying all possible combinations of characters until the correct password is found. The logs would show many logon attempts, but the passwords used are more likely to be sequential than to use common passwords, and the attacker is more likely to focus on one computer rather than trying each password on all of the computers in the department. A downgrade attack is a type of cryptographic attack that involves forcing a communication channel to use a weaker encryption algorithm or protocol, making it easier to decrypt or intercept. As a part of their expansion, Kelly Innovations LLC decided to break their monolithic application into microservices. While this provides scalability, which of the following security implications should the organization most be concerned with? The correct answer is D, granular access controls requirements. As applications are broken down into microservices, each service might need specific access controls, potentially complicating the permission landscape. Microservices can actually increase the number of endpoints that need to be monitored rather than reduce them. Microservices allow for independent deployments, moving away from a singular deployment cadence, which is more associated with monolithic structures. Microservices often distribute data storage needs across services rather than consolidating them, making this option less relevant. Which of the following practices emphasizes the distribution of incoming network traffic across multiple servers to ensure that no individual server is overwhelmed? The correct answer is A, load balancing. Load balancing is the process of distributing network traffic across several servers to prevent any single server from becoming a bottleneck, thereby ensuring optimum resource utilization, maximizing throughput, and reducing latency. Virtualization allows for multiple running operating systems on a single physical machine. It's primarily used to optimize server utilization, but does not inherently distribute incoming network traffic across servers. Clustering refers to the use of multiple servers that work together and can be seen as a single system. Clusters can provide fault tolerance, high availability, and scalability. However, their primary goal is not necessarily traffic distribution. Data mirroring involves creating identical data sets in two or more locations. It provides data redundancy and is generally used for disaster recovery rather than traffic distribution. Which of the following best describes the role of classification in an effective hardware, software, and data asset management? The correct answer is A. Classification ensures that assets are labeled with appropriate access levels. This limits unauthorized access to sensitive information, and this process allows organizations to implement access controls, reducing the risk of data breaches and ensuring data security. Although classification documentation can support financial tracking and budget allocation, its main purpose is access control and data protection. Assigning classifications to individuals or departments may enhance accountability, but accountability alone is not the focus of classification. Similarly, classification is not centered on the physical organization of assets for audits or inventory. It is primarily concerned with access controls and protecting data. Which of the following strategies is most effective for organizations aiming to mitigate the risk of widespread distributions due to a localized issue on their infrastructure? The correct answer is in the question here, infrastructure diversification. Diversifying infrastructure ensures that organizations are not overly reliant on a single data center, network, or platform. By distributing their data assets and systems across multiple networks or platforms, they can significantly reduce the risk of total service disruption if one component fails. Geographic restrictions primarily deal with ensuring data resides or is accessible only in certain locations due to legal or regulatory reasons. While it dictates where data can be, it doesn't inherently diversify infrastructure for resilience against disruptions. While data masking is an essential strategy for obfuscating sensitive information, it doesn't address the risk associated with centralized infrastructure or help in maintaining continuity during disruptions. Setting permission restrictions is crucial for controlling who can access specific resources. However, it doesn't offer a solution against the vulnerabilities of a single point infrastructure failure. Which of the following techniques allows an attacker to eavesdrop on a wired network by connecting their device directly to the network cables? And you've probably heard this before if you've seen a lot of movies or read some crime books, and the answer is wiretapping. Wiretapping, in the context of a wired network, refers to the act of connecting directly to the network's physical infrastructure to monitor and capture data traffic. It is a direct method to eavesdrop on communicators. Packet sniffing is the process of capturing data packets on a network. While a packet sniffer can be used maliciously, the act of packet sniffing itself doesn't specify the method of data capture or a direct connection to network cables. An on-path attack involves intercepting and potentially altering communication between two parties. It doesn't necessarily require direct access to physical network cables. Port mirroring is a method used mainly for network troubleshooting and diagnostics. It allows a switch to send a copy of network packets to network monitoring connection. While it can be used for nefarious purposes if misconfigured, it does not inherently imply malicious intent like wiretapping does. When integrating cloud services with external applications, which of the following considerations is most crucial in assessing the security risks associated with data transmission to these external service providers? The correct answer is B, encryption during transmission. When integrating with external applications like Salesforce, it's crucial to consider the data encryption during transmission to access and mitigate security risks. While crucial, endpoint security primarily safeguards the devices connected to a network, not focusing on the data transmission to external service providers. While access control policies are important, they primarily govern who can access what within an environment and do not specifically address data transmission security to external providers. Virtualization isolation involves the segregation of virtual machines, but doesn't specifically cater to data transmission security with third-party applications. In risk analysis, which method involves assigning numerical values to risks based on financial figures such as cost or potential losses? The correct answer is A, quantitative risk analysis. In risk analysis, the quantitative method involves assigning numerical values to risks based on financial figures such as costs or potential losses. This approach helps in assessing risks in monetary terms, making it easier to prioritize and compare risks based on their potential impact on the organization's financials. The annual loss expectancy is a quantitative metric that calculates the expected financial loss from a risk over a year. It is derived from the product of single loss expectancy and the annualized rate of occurrence. The qualitative risk analysis involves assigning subjective values to risks based on descriptive terms like high, medium, or low. This method does not use numerical values, but rather quantitative assessments. A risk matrix uses the likelihood of an event and the event's impact on the project, stakeholders, or workflow to create a visual representation of the current risk posture or environment. Lucas, an executive at Kelly Innovations LLC, started observing some unusual behaviors on his office computer. The system sometimes seemed to be running tasks he hadn't initiated. Lucas asked the IT department to check the machine for signs of malware. IT could not find any suspicious files or traditional malware footprints on the system. However, they noticed unauthorized changes in the system's registry values and detected activity suggesting the use of PowerShell scripts to execute tasks. Further, these scripts were leveraging legitimate system scripting tools for scanning and configuration activities. What type of malware is Lucas's computer most likely compromised with? This is what we would refer to as fileless malware. Fileless malware operates in memory, often leveraging legitimate systems tools to evade detection. It might adjust registry values for persistence and can run within its own process or use tools like PowerShell to achieve its objectives. Lucas's computer exhibits classic signs of a fileless malware attack. Bloatware refers to unnecessary or unwanted software that comes pre-installed on a device. Lucas's issue isn't related to pre-installed applications. While spyware covertly tracks user activities, Lucas's computer doesn't seem to be demonstrating tracking or monitoring as the primary concern. A worm self-replicates to spread across networks, and there's no evidence of that in this scenario. A security officer at Kelly Innovations LLC is reviewing recent security incidents to assess potential threats within the organization. Two patterns of behavior have raised concerns about a possible insider threat. Which of the following are signs of a possible insider threat? And here it wants us to select two. The first red flag would be unusual data transfers, and additionally, it would be frequent unauthorized access. An employee is found attempting to access files and systems outside the scope of their job responsibilities on several occasions. Large amounts of data are being transferred to unknown external locations, especially during odd hours, suggesting potential data exfiltration. While important for security, performing assigned maintenance tasks is part of routine operations and not indicative of an insider threat. Working overtime by itself does not signal a threat. It could reflect dedication or increased workload and is not inherently suspicious. An employee who actively promotes security policies is showing commitment to the company's safety, not an insider threat. Which of the following best describes the primary role of an audit committee in the context of cybersecurity? The correct answer is A, overseeing cybersecurity risks and ensuring regulatory compliance. The audit committee plays a pivotal role in making sure that the organization meets necessary regulatory standards while also acknowledging the evolving cybersecurity landscape. The audit committee's emphasis on strategic oversight and governance rather than managing the minute of daily IT operations. While the audit committee provides oversight, they typically don't delve into specifics of cybersecurity implementations. While insurance is essential, the audit committee's primary role isn't focused on detailed negotiations with insurance carriers. Bluebird Technologies has hired a penetration tester. In the test, she will attempt to enter the building by using a fake ID and piggybacking at the entrance. What type of penetration testing will she be doing? This is a physical test here. Physical penetration testing involves evaluating an organization's physical security measures, such as access controls, surveillance systems, and security protocols, to identify vulnerabilities and potential breaches. Penetration testing in a known environment means that a significant amount of information has been given to the tester. This can include passwords, usernames, and other information. There is no indication in this scenario that the tester has been given information. Integrated penetration testing refers to a comprehensive approach that combines different types of penetration tests to assess an organization's overall security posture. While physical security may be a part of the assessment, it is not the main focus of this type of testing. Which of the following security measure typically employed outside buildings or sensitive areas to prevent vehicles from causing damage to property or gaining unauthorized access? Correct answer is Bollards. Bollards are specifically engineered as strong fixed posts that can stop vehicles by acting as a robust physical barrier, making them ideal for preventing vehicular access to sensitive areas. A security checkpoint controls and monitors the access of individuals and vehicles in a secure area. It primarily functions as a screening point rather than a physical barrier. Security checkpoints might manage vehicle flow but do not necessarily stop a determined vehicle from breaching a perimeter if not combined with physical barriers. Wire fencing is used to delineate boundaries and can restrict pedestrian and smaller vehicles. However, it is not strong enough to stop vehicles effectively, especially if the vehicle is determined to breach the perimeter. Intrusion detection systems primarily focus on detecting unauthorized entries or breaches within a building or area by using sensors and alarms. It does not provide a physical barrier to stop vehicles. Instead, it alerts security personnel of possible intrusions. All right, guys, next question. In digital forensics, which of the following most describes why the acquisition process is of utmost importance? The correct answer is A, it ensures a precise and unaltered copy of digital evidence. Acquiring evidence correctly guarantees the evidence remains unchanged, making it admissible and valuable in legal proceedings. While communication is key in forensics, the acquisition is more important because it deals with collecting evidence in its pristine form. Acquisition is about collecting evidence accurately, not determining its relevance to a particular case. Access might be necessary, but the acquisition phase is more about copying evidence without altering it. Cheryl's job at Kelly Innovations LLC involves maintaining a record of company-owned smartphones. Which of the following is most likely to be Cheryl's role at Kelly Innovations? And the correct answer would most likely be Asset Inventory Manager. So the Asset Inventory Manager focuses on tracking and recording all organizational assets. Mobile application developers are more concerned with app functionality than hardware inventory. The network administrator role involves managing network health and connectivity, not inventorying smartphones. IT support specialists handle technical issues, not necessarily inventory tasks. Which of the following best describes the primary purpose of e-discovery in digital investigations? The correct answer would be D. It aids in identifying, collecting, and producing electronically stored information for legal cases. E-discovery focuses on the systematic search of electronic data to identify pieces of evidence that can be produced in legal contexts. While data protection methodologies are essential in digital investigations, they are not the central aspect of e-discovery. Though understanding financial implications can be essential, e-discovery's main goal isn't centered around financial assessments. Tool selection is critical, but e-discovery specifically deals with the production of electronic evidence. As a security analyst, you are investigating a suspicious file activity incident. While examining metadata associated with different files, which of the following pieces of information is not typically presented in metadata? So metadata would include things like the file size, the file's creator, date and time of the last modification, but not the users who have accessed the file. Metadata does not normally include information about users who have accessed the file, although it will have information about what IP addresses have accessed the file. The date and time of the last modification is an integral part of metadata. This can help establish timelines of activity and identify unexpected changes, which is crucial during an investigation. File size is a common piece of metadata. This could be helpful if, for example, a file size significantly changes without a clear explanation. The name of the user who created the file is often included as a part of the file's metadata. This is crucial information during an investigation of an unauthorized file access or alteration. Which of the following best represents the approach that divides a physical network into multiple distinct units to manage traffic and enhance security? This one here is kind of in the name. It is logical segmentation. Logical segmentation segments a larger network into distinct units, improving both traffic management and security. Software-defined networking focuses on centralizing network control through software, not on segmenting networks. High availability ensures continuous operation of systems and networks, but doesn't inherently divide a network. Containerization encapsulates applications and their environments, but doesn't pertain to network segmentation. Which term refers to the percentage of an asset's value that is expected to be lost when a specific risk eventuates? The correct answer is exposure factor, or EF. The exposure factor is the fraction of the asset value that is at risk in the event of a security incident. Asset impact can refer to the general effect on an asset, but doesn't provide a quantifiable percentage like the exposure factor does. This term might be used informally to describe a similar concept as EF, but it is not the standard term used in risk assessment. While SLE, single loss expectancy, calculates the cost of a single occurrence of a risk event, it does not account for the frequency of that event over time, which is necessary to calculate ALE. Which of the following best defines the term that represents the expected number of times a risk event will occur within a 1-year period? This one here is mostly about knowing your acronyms. This one stands for annualized rate of occurrence. And this quantifies the expected frequency of a risk occurring within a 1-year time frame. SLE calculates the cost of a single occurrence of a risk event, does not account for an event over time. Exposure factor determines the proportion of asset value lost per risk event, a component of an SLE calculation. And ALE, again, annualized loss expectancy, represents the yearly financial loss a company can expect from a specified risk, factoring in both the severity and the frequency of the event. Which of the following statements is not true about the importance of continuous integration in relation to secure operations? The correct answer is B. Continuous integration may slow down the development process, but it provides far more secure systems overall. In fact, continuous integration speeds up the development process. By integrating the work often, problems are discovered early and can be fixed immediately, preventing them from slowing down the project in later stages. Continuous integration involves automated processes like building and testing of code, thus relieving developers from manual repetitive tasks and enabling them to focus on other aspects of their work. This consequently enhances their productivity. Continuous integration allows for the immediate detection of issues because code is integrated frequently. This immediate feedback makes it easier to address problems as they can be caught and fixed before further progress is made, improving overall security. Practice of making frequent commits and running automated tests means that errors are detected sooner, and this early detection allows for quick fixes, thereby improving software quality. Dion Training is deploying a new application for remote employees. They want to ensure that the users can securely log in without needing a physical device other than their smartphones. The system would generate a temporary numeric code on the user's device, which would then be used as a second form of authentication. Which of the following solutions best fulfills this requirement? The correct answer is C, software authentication tokens. Software authentication tokens generate time-sensitive codes on devices like smartphones, providing an added layer of security without the need for a physical device other than the user's own device. Biometric leverages unique biological characteristics like fingerprints or facial recognition. A static password is a fixed set of characters used for authentication and does not provide the dynamic, temporary nature of the described solution. Network location-based authentication validates users based on their network's location, not a temporary numeric code. Which of the following is not true about environmental variables? The correct answer is D. Maintaining standard levels of environmental variables isn't necessary in most data center environments. The maintaining and monitoring of environmental variables are very important for maintaining an efficient data center environment. For example, high standard HVAC systems keeping a steady temperature and humidity and continuous power supply contribute to the operational efficiency and longevity of assets. Proper understanding of environmental variables assists in determining the specific requirements of different hardware and software, promoting effective asset management. Environmental variables like temperature and humidity can greatly affect performance, efficiency, and lifecycle of hardware assets in a data center. And environmental factors such as consistent power supply and efficient cooling systems are crucial to minimize hardware malfunction and maximize asset longevity. As a security analyst, you are examining packet captures for an ongoing investigation into a network breach. Which of the following information is not typically recorded in packet captures? The correct answer is A, the content of secured encrypted communications. The content of secured encrypted communications is not decipherable in packet captures unless you possess the keys to decrypt it. While you can see that the data is being sent and received, the content of these communications is securely encrypted. Timestamps are also kept in packet captures. This offers a chronological context that can be crucial when tracing events during investigations. Protocols used in the captured data are also recorded. This can help analysts determine what type of communication was happening. Source and destination IP addresses are crucial parts of information that are recorded in packet captures. They can assist in determining the origin and destination of the network traffic, which aids in investigating potential breaches. David is analyzing a recent risk report and categorizes risks based on their likelihood and potential impact, without assigning specific financial values. This approach helps his team prioritize which risks to address first, but does not offer detailed monetary estimates. What method is David using? The correct answer is qualitative risk assessment. This is categorizing risks by likelihood and impact without applying numerical values, focused instead on a priority ranking. Quantitative risk assessment would involve specific financial data, which this method lacks. Residual risk analysis assesses the risk that remains after mitigation. And threat vector analysis centers on potential attack vectors rather than general risk categorization. You are a network engineer for a large hospital that has a complex network with many applications and many employees. You are most concerned with protecting the privacy of patients, so you will need to prevent unauthorized people from seeing data. Which of the following mitigation techniques can help you achieve this goal? We've learned about this in previous CompTIA A+ practice tests. The correct answer is D, least privilege. Least privilege is a mitigation technique that limits users to the level of access and privilege they need to do their work. And this can limit the extent of an attack by limiting the access and privilege to those of the compromised user. Least privilege involves applying predefined rules and permissions, such as roles, groups, and functions, and enforcing the rules and permissions through mechanisms like passwords, tokens, and biometrics. Using least privilege, employees will have access to the patient data that they need, but not to the data of other patients. Monitoring is a mitigation technique that can help detect and respond to potential threats or incidents on a network. By collecting and analyzing data about the activities and events on a network, security analysts can develop theories about the vulnerabilities and incidents that occur on the system. Monitoring involves tools like logs, alerts, and audits, and this will allow us to know if the data is breached, but monitoring will not prevent unauthorized people from seeing patient data. An application allow list is a mitigation technique that can help enforce compliance with security standards and policies on a system or network. It does this by comparing applications to a list of applications that are allowed to run. These applications have been verified and authorized by the system or network administrator. Any application that is not on the list is not allowed to run. Limiting the applications that employees can use will not prevent them from seeing patient data. Isolation is a mitigation technique that can help prevent malware from spreading from one system to another by limiting their interaction and communication. Isolation involves sandboxing or simply disconnecting an infected system, and this prevents potentially malicious programs or scripts from accessing the rest of a system or network. Dion Training Solutions recently remediated a critical vulnerability on their servers. Which of the following actions is the best step to verify the remediation efforts were successful? And we can do this simply by rescanning. Rescanning involves running the vulnerability scan again after remediation efforts to confirm that the identified vulnerabilities have been addressed properly and no longer pose a threat. While segmentation is a mitigation technique, it doesn't involve retesting systems for vulnerabilities. Intrusive scanners refer to aggressive scanning that might disrupt operations. While it can be a part of a rescan, it's not the specific action of confirming remediation. Examining event logs can provide insights into system behaviors, but it is not the act of running the same tests to validate the remediation of vulnerabilities. Which of the following is a disadvantage of agentless posture assessment in network access control solutions? Correct answer is B. Less detailed information about the client is available. Agentless posture assessment in NAC solutions, while beneficial for supporting a broad range of devices, often provides less granular data about the client compared to agent-based solutions. This can limit the depth of assessment and control. Agentless solutions don't require storage on the client device for an agent, so this isn't a disadvantage of agentless posture assessment. Agentless solutions are often chosen specifically because they can support a wider range of devices, including smartphones, tablets, and IoT devices. The presence or absence of an agent doesn't directly correlate with an increased risk of malware. Malware protection is much more related to the specific security mechanisms in place. Which of the following best explains the importance of benchmarks? The correct answer is D. Benchmarks compare a security performance to industry standard metrics identifying potential security weaknesses. Benchmarks refer to the process of comparing an organization's security performance against industry standard metrics, best practices, or regulatory requirements to identify potential security weaknesses and deviations. While cryptographic algorithms are essential for securing data transmission over the internet, they are not referred to as benchmarks. Benchmarks are not intrusion detection systems, rather they involve comparing security performance against established standards. Benchmarks are not firewall technologies, but rather a process of assessing an organization's security performance. Mary, a network administrator at Dion Training, is discussing with Enrique ways to harden the company's mobile devices. Which technique would be the most effective for them to implement first? The correct answer is A. Enforce full device encryption. Encrypting the entire device ensures that the data remains inaccessible even if the physical device is compromised. This is paramount for data protection. Enable Bluetooth discoverable mode makes pairing easier but increases vulnerability by allowing unsolicited connections. It doesn't contribute to overall security as much as other answer options. A screen lock is essential to prevent unauthorized access, but a determined attacker could still extract data from the device directly. Strong Wi-Fi passwords protect against unauthorized network access, but don't safeguard the device's stored data. Which of the following terms refers to the method where an attacker directly interacts with computer systems to gather information, potentially alerting the target about the attempted intrusion? And the correct answer is active reconnaissance. Active reconnaissance involves the attacker directly engaging with the target systems, like scanning ports or attempting direct network connections. It often leaves traces and can alert the target. In passive reconnaissance, the attacker indirectly gathers information without touching the target system. Common methods include studying publicly available information. Although it's an information gathering technique, network enumeration typically occurs after reconnaissance and involves detailed identification of network resources that can be targeted for exploitation. While open source intelligence is a form of passive reconnaissance, it specifically involves collecting data from publicly available resources such as websites, forums, and social media. John, a senior executive at Dion Training Solutions, accessed his corporate email from New York at 10 a.m. The logs also showed a login attempt at the same account from Tokyo at 10:15 a.m. and then another one from Paris at 10:30 a.m. The IT team at Dion Training Solutions grew concerned about this activity. Which of the following statements best describes the activity related to John's account? The correct answer is D, detection of impossible travel. Rippled, a drink vendor, is developing a disaster recovery plan to ensure the swift recovery of critical systems and processes in the event of a disruption. They are defining a specific metric, which is the amount of acceptable time it will take to return to normal business. What measures are they defining? The correct answer is C. The recovery time objective is the maximum acceptable time allowed for the recovery of a system or process after a disruption. It defines the time frame within which critical systems and operations must be restored to normal functionality. The recovery point objective, RPO, is the maximum amount of data that the organization can afford to lose. MTTR is the average time it takes to restore a failed system or component. And the mean time between failures, MTBF, is the average time elapsed between 2 consecutive failures of a system or component. Which of the following types of certificates is issued by an entity using its own private key and is often used in internal or testing environments due to its lack of inherent trust in external systems? The correct answer is B, self-signed certificate. A self-signed certificate is generated and signed by the same entity and is not backed by a trusted certificate authority. While it's cost-effective and good for internal uses, it may be viewed with skepticism by external systems since it lacks a third-party verification. An extended validation certificate offers the highest level of assurance for websites with vigorous checks by CAs, but it is not self-signed. A root certificate is a top-level certificate in a certificate hierarchy and is used to validate the certificate of the issuing CA. It doesn't inherently indicate a lack of third-party trust. A CSR is a message sent from an application to a certificate authority in order to apply for a digital identity certificate. To enhance the privacy of its users, Kelly Innovations LLC is considering a system that can act as an intermediary for internet requests, hiding the origin of the request from the destination server. Which solution would best fit this purpose? The correct answer is a proxy server. A proxy server sits between a client and the destination of its server, forwarding requests and responses on behalf of the client. By doing this, it can effectively mask the client's IP address, providing a level of privacy and anonymity. A jump server facilitates administrative access to an environment, but isn't designed to forward and mask internet requests from clients to destination servers. Routers forward data packets between computer networks and direct traffic on the internet. Though they can be configured for certain security tasks, they don't inherently mask the origin of internet requests like a proxy server does. And an IPS monitors and blocks malicious traffic. It does not act as an intermediary for general internet requests or masks the origin of those requests. Which of the following ports should be disabled or carefully monitored to prevent unauthorized voice over IP signaling, which can be an avenue for toll fraud or unauthorized call control? The correct answer is B, 5060. Port 5060 is used for signaling in voice over IP services. Unauthorized access to this port can result in toll fraud or unauthorized call control. Simple Network Management Protocol port 161 is used for collecting and organizing information about managed devices, and is unrelated to VoIP services. NetBIOS port 139 is used for file and print sharing over local networks, not for VoIP signaling. Post Office Protocol port 110 is used for retrieving emails from a mail server, unrelated to VoIP services. After a security assessment, Jono has been tasked with replacing his home office AP with one that has the capability of providing WPA3, which his previous one was unable to handle. Which of the following is true when considering WPA3 standards? And here it wants us to select 4. The correct answers are A, and then D, F, and G in this case. WPA3 is the latest and most secure wireless security protocol. It utilizes a Diffie-Hellman key agreement. It provides individualized data encryption, even in open networks, and it prevents eavesdropping, forging, and tampering with management frames. These were some of the additions to address flaws that were present in the previous WPA2 standard, which became an increasing security concern. The four-way handshake was actually part of the previous WPA2 standard using a pre-shared key that was replaced with the Diffie-Hellman key agreement. Enterprise Wi-Fi networks often use EAP TLS for authentication, but this operates in conjunction with WPA3 and is not a part of WPA3 itself. You are working remotely and you need to access your company's network resources. You connect to a public Wi-Fi hotspot at a nearby coffee shop and use a VPN client to establish a secure connection. However, you notice that the VPN client is outdated. What type of vulnerability are you exposing yourself to? The correct answer is A, vulnerable software. Vulnerable software is a software that is known or unknown flaws can be exploited by attackers to gain unauthorized access or harm. Outdated software may have unpatched vulnerabilities that can compromise the security of the system or network. Default credentials and usernames are passwords that are set by default for certain devices and applications. These can be easily guessed by attackers to gain access to the system or network. Open service ports are ports that are listening for incoming connections from other systems or devices. These can expose services that may have vulnerabilities or allow unauthorized access to the system. Unsecure networks are networks that do not have an adequate security measures, such as encryption, authentication, or firewall, to protect the data transmitted over them. Saris is investigating an incident. She found a hidden program that monitors the network traffic and captures sensitive information. Which of the following types of malware is most likely involved in this incident? The correct answer is spyware. Spyware is a type of malware that monitors the network traffic and captures sensitive information such as passwords, credit card numbers, or other personal details. We've talked about a worm already. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts the data or files on a system and demands ransom for their decryption or restoration. And a Trojan is a type of malware that disguises itself as a legitimate or benign program, but performs malicious actions when executed, such as creating a backdoor for remote access or control. Sanford & Sons, a recycling center, has recently decommissioned a number of servers containing confidential client data. Before selling the servers, the organization wants to ensure that all the data has been securely removed and seeks a documentation affirmation that the process was complete. Which of the following would provide the organization with the assurance it needs? Correct answer is B. A data destruction certificate is a formal document attesting that a specific data sanitization process was followed, ensuring that data on devices has been securely and irreversibly removed. The HCL provides a list of hardware devices known to be compatible with specific software or operating systems and does not relate to data deconstruction processes. An asset inventory report provides a record of all the assets within an organization but does not attest to the secure removal of the data. An SLA outlines the expected level of service between a provider and client, including response times and uptime guarantees. This does not confirm the data destruction process. Jamario, an IT administrator for Dion Training Solutions, is considering deploying an agent-based web filter solution to manage and monitor web traffic for remote employees. Which of the following is the most important advantage of implementing agent-based web filters over traditional gateway-based filters for this purpose? The correct answer is B. It allows for consistent policy enforcement regardless of the user's location. Agent-based web filters are installed directly on the end user's device, ensuring that the filtering policy is enforced consistently, whether the user is on the corporate network or working remotely. The filtering speed is dependent on many factors, including the efficiency of the software, the hardware it's running on, and the network's overall capacity, not just the type of filtering solution. All software, including agent-based web filters, requires updates to ensure that they are effective against the latest threats and compatible with current systems. While there might be some cost savings without needing specific hardware, agent-based solutions also come in with their own costs, such as licensing and maintenance. Jasmine, the manager of a local bank, was puzzled. Every Monday morning, she would find her safe's electronic keypad non-responsive, showing a maximum attempts reached error message. However, security footage did not show anyone physically attempting to open the safe over the weekend. Which of the following types of malicious activities best describes this scenario? The correct answer is brute force. Brute force attacks involve trying multiple combinations until the correct one is found. The maximum attempts reach error suggests that someone or something has been trying numerous combinations on the safe's electronic keypad. Phishing is a method known to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information. An environmental attack refers to exploiting environmental factors, and there's no evidence of that here. And RFID cloning, as we learned earlier, involves copying the data from RFID to gain unauthorized access. What is the name of the web-based attack that involves entering malicious code into user input fields that are executed by a database server? The correct answer is C, structured query language injection. Structured query language injection is a web-based attack that involves inserting malicious SQL statements into user input fields or URLs that are executed by the database server. It can allow an attacker to read, modify, delete, or execute commands on the database. Cross-site scripting is a web-based attack that involves inserting malicious scripts into web pages that are executed by the browser of unsuspecting users. It can allow an attacker to steal cookies, session tokens, credentials, or perform other attacks on the behalf of the user. Cross-site request is a web-based attack that involves tricking a user into performing an unwanted action on a website where they are already authenticated. It can allow an attacker to transfer funds, change passwords, or perform other actions without the user's consent. Directory traversal is a web-based attack that involves exploiting a vulnerability in a web server or application to access files or directories that are outside the intended scope. It can allow an attacker to read, modify, delete, or execute files or directories on the server. All right, guys, and here we have our final question. John is an IT administrator at Dion Training Solutions. Due to the dynamic nature of his job, he often requires access to various servers and systems on an as-needed basis. The organization wants to ensure that John is granted access only when required and for a short duration. Which security approach would be the most suitable for John's role? So similar to least permissions, this one here is referring to just-in-time permissions. By granting access only when it's specifically needed for a short duration, just-in-time permissions minimize the exposure of critical systems. Mandatory access control assigns access based on labels and does not consider the specific timing or short duration for access need. While RABC assigns permissions based on the job function, it does not consider the timing duration of access needs. This method categorizes data based on its sensitivity, not the timing or duration of access. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions about anything that we covered, feel free to drop those in the comments below. We'll get back with you as soon as we can. Again, if you're interested in purchasing genuine Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll have those links down below. As our channel continues to grow, we're constantly looking for new video topic ideas. If you have any ideas to suggest, we'd love to hear what those are. Most viewer-requested videos get made into actual videos on our channel. Lastly, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated as it helps to support the channel. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next time.